This is Chris Hunter with Collective Thought Media, and we're here today looking at how you can take actual photos of a real person, load them into fast DreamBooth in order to then create a custom-trained data set in order to create AI art renderings of specific people. The first step in order to create a custom data set of a specific person is to create the instance photos. These instance photos that you see here are what we're going to use in order to train the data set to know specifically what this person looks like. So the first step is you have to create about 15 to 25 photographs. These photographs need to be taken in flat lighting. We can't have shadows going across their face, and we need them to be taken at a variety of angles. So as you can see, you start with a close-up portrait shot straight onto their face. You then have the person turn 15 degrees, 15 degrees, 15 degrees, 15 degrees until they are now at full profile. You then have them turn in the opposite direction, again turning a few degrees each time until they're now in the opposite profile. Then we go to a wider set of photos and you do the same thing. You have them turn side to side until they're in profile, and then you do the same thing back the other direction. This way you are creating a series of photos that shows the person from all angles and sides. It's also important that when you take these photos, ideally you would want to use a high quality DSLR or mirrorless camera. Also, you can use a cell phone as long as it's of extremely high quality and good lighting. You don't want these photos to be very noisy or grainy. You don't want them to be too dark. You don't want them to be blurry. Basically, these photos are going to become the basis for what that person looks like, or for what the AI thinks that person looks like. Okay, so it's just important that you don't have any extraneous elements. We want to try to have as clean a background as possible here, and you want to have enough headspace. Also, don't cut their head off. I did that a little bit here on these closer shots. I should have kept them all like this. So you want to give a little bit of headspace, otherwise the AI is going to tend to cut their head off more frequently. The other thing to keep in mind, tell the person, imagine that you are hiring a photographer to take your portrait photos, and what you look like in these photos is what you're going to look like when the AI generates its renderings of you. Okay, so do whatever you would do if you were about to have your portrait taken by a professional portrait photographer. Okay, so here you can see we have the 25 or so images of this person that we took, and then I also took a couple photos from social media just to be able to have this same person's face in different light. So we have, in this case, I have 39 photos. I think you're okay with anywhere between 20 and 30 or so photos is fine. And again, I like to just try to do about 20 photos that I take myself, and maybe about 8 or so photos that are sourced from different environments that were taken in different lighting. Okay, so you have all your photos, you've assembled them, you've cropped them how you need them. We can now move on to setting up our DreamBooth Google Colab account, and we can move on to setting up our Hugging Face account. Okay, so now that your photos are all set, we can click on the link in the description below, which will open up a copy of DreamBooth on Google Colab. You'll need to create a Google Colab account if you don't already have one. It's a very straightforward process. You can either do the free account, or you can sign up for a pro version. The pro version is $9.99 a month, and it allows you access to some additional features as well as higher-end equipment and higher-end hardware in the cloud. Once you have your Google Colab account set up, you're going to go ahead and click the link in the description below, which will open up a copy of Fast DreamBooth. Now, Google Colab is software that is run in the cloud. So we are essentially running a series of software commands using Google Colab hardware that is located on the cloud. The benefit of this is that it doesn't matter if you have an NVIDIA GPU or a high-end GPU or not, because we're going to utilize Google's hardware to run this software. Once you have opened up this Fast DreamBooth, the first thing I like to do is save a copy in Drive. This will save a new copy that has never been used, that has no data populated, nothing is set up yet, and you can tell it's a copy up here because it says copy of Fast DreamBooth. We're going to give this a name that matches the data set that we're training. So we're training a data set called Seawall AI. So I am going to call this Seawall AI Fast DreamBooth. Now, for each instance of Fast DreamBooth that you run, you'll probably want to give it a unique name for that specific data set that you are training. Once you have made a new copy of it, you've given it a unique name, we're going to go ahead and mount our Google Drive. Now, because Collab runs on Google servers, it has access to Google Drive. So we're going to allow it to connect to Google Drive. We're going to give it permission to use our main Gmail account here. We're going to hit allow, and it will now mount my Google Drive account. All of the content within my Google Drive, all the folders will be mounted and accessible to Google Collab. You can see you get the little check mark here, and it tells you it took 20 seconds to mount my Google Drive. So what this allows it to do is to interact with the folders on Google Drive. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the environment. If you click the arrow here, you can see how it shows the hidden cells. In most cases, you can just hit the main play button here. That will then execute the hidden cells here, in this case, dependencies and Xformers. When you set up your Google Collab, you want to go in a linear manner. You want to set up each part and then the next part. You don't want to skip ahead and try to set up something down here because it is probably dependent on things that are going to be set up before earlier. It's now setting up the environment, and you can see it is loading the dependencies and the Xformers. Simply let this run, and you will get another green check mark over here once completed. So we can see setting up the environment is completed. It took 52 seconds to set up the dependencies, 12 seconds to set up the Xformers. That is now complete. We can move on to the next step. You will always get a green done, or you'll get some text in green that says move on to the next step or done whenever you finish each cell. So the next thing we're going to do is download the original Stable Diffusion 1.5 model. In order to download the Stable Diffusion model, you have to have an account with Hugging Face. So you're going to go ahead and click the other link in the description below to set up a Hugging Face account. Once you have created your Hugging Face account, you have logged in, you'll go to Settings. On the Settings tab over here on the left, you'll go to Access Tokens. You will then click Copy. This will copy your user access token. Okay, so now that we have copied the token from our Hugging Face account, we're going to come back into the downloading the model section. We're going to paste our token in here. You can see it says download the original 1.5 model, and you also have to make sure that you've accepted the terms here like it says for Stable Diffusion. It won't appear here for me because I've already accepted it, but there'll be a checkbox here. You just accept the terms, and you can come back, paste in your Hugging Face token, and we're going to go ahead and hit play on that. And that is now going to download the Stable Diffusion model and load that within Fast DreamBooth. Okay, you can see it now says done. So this means that the Stable Diffusion 1.5 vanilla or original model has been loaded into our Google Collab and our Fast DreamBooth. So we're going to go ahead and minimize downloading the model. We're now going to move on to the DreamBooth tab. We're going to give this a session name. I will call it Seawall AI. Everything I'm doing for this, I'm calling Seawall AI because I just want it to all share the same name, and I know that that is going to give me, I will always know the name of everything if I want to reload this session or if I want to open, whatever I need to do, I'll know that everything is named Seawall AI. Now, as this says, the most important step is to rename the instance pictures of each subject to a unique unknown identifier. Going back to our images here, the name that you give these images, this unique identifier, that is the same text prompt you are going to use in Stable Diffusion in order to invoke or call this character to be created. Okay, so you simply name your files what you want the text prompt reference to be. So as you can see, I have named them Seawall AI 00, 01, 02, and so on, all the way up to Seawall AI 38. Okay, so what you name these files is what the text prompt will be. Very important that when you name this and when you come up with this, as it says, unknown identifier. Okay, so what that means is that here's an example. This person's name is Crystal Wall. Okay, both of these terms already have associations. Crystals and a wall, like a wall in a home, or like a diamond crystal. You don't want to use any single words that already have associations with them. So in this case, what we like to do is use initials, abbreviations, and then add AI to the end. So C wall AI, this word right here is an unknown identifier. That doesn't, this right here, CWALLAI, is not a known English word, and it doesn't already have an association with any other subjects in Stable Diffusion. Okay, so very important that you come up with the unknown identifier, and then you need to name them 00, 01, 02, etc. Okay, so we are now going, so we've given it a session name. We're gonna create and load this session. Okay, you can say, it says session created, proceed to uploading instance images. There's two different ways that you can do this. You can hit play right here. That will then give you an option to upload the images through this interface. What I prefer to do, I just feel like sometimes I run into issues with this uploading them correctly. So what I prefer to do is, you can see there's an images folder optional. If you prefer to specify directly the folder of the pictures instead of uploading, this will add the pictures to the existing images, leave empty to upload. So what I prefer to do, what I recommend you do, is create a folder in Google Drive. I created a folder called AI. I created a separate folder called CWall AI. I uploaded all of those images to here. So you can see I already have all of my reference instance images uploaded to Google Drive. I'm going to go into my Collab here. I'm going to go to G Drive, My Drive, AI, CWall AI. This is, you can see there are all the photos. I'm gonna click on the drop down menu, and I'm gonna do copy path. I'm then going to insert under images folder that path to those images. Now when I hit play here, it will automatically upload those 39 photos that I already have stored here on my Google Drive account. You can see it's uploading them right here. This step is very quick. 39 images uploaded. All right, there you go. Check mark done on this portion. Now we can proceed to the training cell. Okay, it says start DreamBooth. If resume training is if you're loading a previous session. The number of training steps that you want to use is the number of images times 200. Okay, so if you have 39 images times 200, that would give you, you would use 7,800 steps. So you want to be somewhere in that area. When I did this previously, I used 6,000 steps because that's within the ballpark of 7,800. Now, the more steps you use, the longer it's going to take to train the data set. But as a general rule, if you're using between, say, 20 and 30 images, you're going to use between 4,000 and 6,000 steps. Okay, so you see that we have entered 6,000 training steps here. The resolution is 512. If you're using 512 as a resolution, then your images need to be 512 or larger. Okay, if they're larger, that's fine. And we're also going to, we're basically going to enable the half precision. You can disable this if you'd like. It will take longer. It will double the training time, and it produces bigger files. I typically just do it with the 2 GB files and the half precision, and that seems to work okay for me. But if you're unhappy with the results you're getting, you can try disabling half precision. And again, it will double the amount of time it takes, though. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so we're going to set it to 50%, and it is going to use 50% of the total training steps in order to set the text encoding. We're not going to save any checkpoints. We're just going to go ahead, and now that we have set 50% of the text steps for training, we're using half precision. We've set the total number of steps. We're going to go ahead and start the training. When you hit start up here, this is the final step before we will have our CKPT file. So once you hit start on the Start DreamBooth, you'll see there'll be some code that's going to load up down here, and eventually you will get a message that says training in ASCII art text, and then you can simply leave this tab up, let this run. It takes about an hour and a half if you're on half precision mode with 6,000 steps. If you're on full precision mode, it might take about 3 hours. So we'll go ahead, once this says training, as it does now, we will just go ahead and let this run. We'll go ahead, make some breakfast, come back, check in on a little bit, and see if our model is finished. Okay, Now, I have already gone ahead and trained this model previously, so I stopped the training. But if you let it continue down here, it will say your CKPT file is located in your sessions folder. Okay, so what that means is you're going to go back to your Google Drive account. All right, we're going to go back to Google Drive. Within your Google Drive, there's now going to be a folder called Fast DreamBooth. Double click on that to open up the sessions folder. Within the sessions folder, you can see we now have a folder for Seawall AI, and within that we have Seawall AI CKPT. We're going to go ahead, hit download on that. This is going to download the file locally to your computer. Go to the file. We are simply now going to launch Stable Diffusion. I use the NMKD GUI for Stable Diffusion. We'll go into the settings, and we can see right here we have a field where we can pick Stable Diffusion model file. If you click Open Folder, this will open up the data model folder where you need to place the CKPT file you downloaded into. As you can see, I have Stable Diffusion 1.4. I have my Seawall CKPT. I have another CKPT I trained on myself. And once you place those files into this folder and go back to settings, it will now give you the option to pick them here as the Stable Diffusion model file that we want to use. Okay, now we've loaded the CKPT file. We've chosen it within Stable Diffusion, within NMKD. We're now going to enter a prompt. We're going to enter. I'm actually going to go ahead and just show you what it looks like if we just render with just her name and nothing else. It takes quite a while for Stable Diffusion to load the first time you run a prompt within NMKD. It takes maybe 2-3 minutes. So once you've done the first prompt, however, it will be much quicker to then run subsequent prompts, and it will not have to load Stable Diffusion each time. If you're using a different GUI for Stable Diffusion, likely within the settings somewhere, you're just going to go ahead and have to find the option to pick the unique CKPT file that you have created and downloaded. Okay, so now that it has loaded the Stable Diffusion CKPT model, it's now going to go ahead and generate an image. In this case, I set it to 8 images, but I'm just going to stop it after the first image is done. These should look essentially just like our instance images. It's basically just going to create what it knows from... Okay, that's disturbing. It's just going to create what it knows of Seawall AI based on the instance images that you had input. So it's going to go ahead, it's going to create a series of images. You can see and guys, listen, you're going to get some disturbing images sometimes from this, okay? It doesn't really know what to make the person look like exactly 100%, so it just tries its best. Sometimes these images you may be disfigured. You may have multiple heads. You know, it's like just inputting the Seawall AI prompt really doesn't tell it what to create otherwise with this, right? So this is where the prompt crafting comes in, and you have to enter prompts which are going to dramatically change what these render outputs are going to look like. So if we do, just even for example, if we put in portrait of a beautiful portrait of Seawall AI. So even just putting a beautiful portrait of beforehand is going to make a pretty big difference in what types of images that it creates. So we can see now a beautiful portrait of Seawall AI creates more of a standard portrait look to these images, okay? So the prompt matters. What we put in for the prompt is going to have a dramatic difference on the resulting renders. They're all going to contain what it thinks it should look like for this person. However, the words that you use around the prompt will have a dramatic effect on the types of renders that you get. So now that we've already got Stable Diffusion creating some basic renders of our subject from our trained data set, we're going to go ahead and move into creating some more advanced prompts and something that looks a little more stylized and different. Now, I have already worked on creating this prompt, and I've already worked on some reference images that I like, and I've already got a set of images that I feel are pretty cool. So reference inspiration or reference images are very important here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into some of the images that I have already previously created using this data set and some other reference images in order to kind of get what I wanted as far as the look. So once this loads up here, you'll be able to see the images that I had already created here using this subject. And so these are kind of cool here. This is like a very stylized, cool look. So we're going to go ahead and load one of those as a reference image. And I've got my more in-depth text prompt here, okay? We're going to start generating some more images now based on this text prompt. But you know what? I'm going to change the aspect ratio to match the previous images. I'm going to go with a portrait, 512 by 768. And we're going to go ahead and generate some more of these cool stylized images. Okay, so as you can see, it is referencing both the previous inspiration image that I loaded as well as the text here within this prompt. So I've got phrases like blue and orange background, matte painting, Blade Runner, sci-fi, future city, neo-Tokyo, steampunk, etc. And that's going to influence what types of images it creates now. So this part of the process is a little more time consuming, and this is sort of dependent on the type of image that you're interested in creating. But you can see how we have gone from basically straight photography, just straight up photos of this person. We have gone from this to now creating highly stylized images such as this right here, which have a cool steampunk, futuristic kind of cartoon character look to them. So now you can see it's creating all these various images here. If say, for example, you really liked one of these images, like say this is the style you're going for right here, what you can do is you can then load that image again into Stable Diffusion, use that as a reference image, and tell it to now create further variables based on this newer image that you like. So we're going to go ahead and wait for this to load up here. It's just going to load all these thumbnails. And this is the image right here now. I would like it to create more instance images based on this particular image that it generated. So this is like making variations in Midjourney. So you just simply load up whatever image you liked. You clear your previous image, load this as a new inspiration image, and then create more variations based on this. So if I want it to look more like the reference image, I can increase the initial image strength, and that will then create images that look closer to what I gave it as a reference. So maybe we want to up that even more. Let's do 0.5. So now 50% of the image is going to be referenced back to our reference image here, essentially. So it should look very close now to what I had previously created. All right, pretty cool. So again, as you create these different images, you can use them as inspiration images again over and over to create things that are closer to what you envision. So I hope this has been helpful in order for you guys to understand how to create a custom data set and then load that data set within Stable Diffusion and create your own stylized portraits or drawings or artwork of people that you know. If you have any questions or if you feel this was helpful, please drop a comment below. Thank you.